As I've been doing my book tour for the Grift, nearly every
You mean
spot that I go
New York
to,
Times
New
bestseller?
York Times bestseller, New York Times bestseller. My God, um, nearly every spot that I go to, they bring up this alleged mass exodus of black voters going to the Republican Party, and I tell them, I say, we hear this every election cycle. This happened during the Reagan years. I open up the Clarence Thomas chapter with this narrative that all these black folks are going to go to the GOP without any policies for fair housing, fair wages, voting rights. I mean, civil rights. I mean, Reagan tried to veto the 1987 Civil Rights Act. I mean, I can go on and on, but we're all falling for it, and we're all going over there. This particular election cycle, I've just become exhausted with it
Mhm.
because I know, and I'm not saying that there are the Democratic Party has issues, obviously, but what do you think about this narrative? You've studied this. Every election cycle it comes up, and then every election cycle it's proven that it's less than 10%,
Mhm.
and black men range from like 12 to 15
Mhm.
percent ish. Every single one.
Every single time.
But what are your thoughts on this? I mean, you see MSNBC shows on it. You see articles in the New York Times on it. It's this narrative that I wonder what the real intention is behind it,
Right.
or am I missing something? I
No,
mean,
you
it's not in
absolutely
my
aren't.
barbershop.
No, I mean, and we also see the mainstream media giving sort of black folks, black men in particular from entertainment industries, a platform to pontificate about politics, where it's like, these are
Mhm.
musings. They're not based in reading of political science. So, as you've laid out, every election, the hand wringing, black men, because it's like, well, you need a scapegoat when Republicans win. You don't want to blame the masses of white men and white women, right? You don't want to blame the 50% of Asian Americans who vote against their interests. You don't want to blame the 40% of Latinos who vote against their interests. You want to blame the 12% of black men who vote against their interests. So it's like black men are not going to change, like they're not the arbiters of Republicans winning. They could be a margin, sure, but it was like, if we're really concerned about Republicans winning, we should probably try and help white people understand that they consistently vote against their interests, the way LBJ laid out. It's like, hey, poor white
Yes.
people, they're not giving y'all nothing except for whiteness. So you might want to back it up. So I just, Clay, I first discovered this during Prop 8 in California. I know we're East Coast
Yes.
people, but do you remember Prop 8 in California,
Of
which was
course.
marriage equity, right? And of course, it's written in a way where state legislators do this. It's not, never double negative. So it's
Same-sex
like, wait,
marriage, y'all. In
what?
case y'all don't
So
know, same-sex marriage. In
same
case
sex,
they didn't
sorry,
know,
and
in
and
California. Yeah.
I say marriage equity because constitutionally
Yeah.
this is what we're talking about. But yeah, same sex marriage.
Exactly.
So, but they're oftentimes written in confusing fashion on purpose.
Definitely.
Because I'm
Yeah.
like, if I'm a political scientist and I've got to read propositions several times to understand it, then that usually means the average voter probably has to as well. So when I land down in California, and I'm sorry, I'm going on a touch of a tangent, but like when I land
It's all
down in
right.
California, I see my the college bestie and he and his partner. I'm like, whoop whoop, vote yes on Prop 8. And he was like, no, 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 no. If you support marriage equity in California, Chrissy, you vote no on Prop 8. And I was like, wait, what? If I support it, then I vote no. And he's like, yes. So I was like, okay. So, obviously I'm not voting in California, but I'm sort of, so I'm seeing all these signs that say vote yes, vote no, depending on what neighborhood we're in. Then it doesn't, people voted yes for Prop 8. So marriage equity slash gay marriage does not pass with this Prop 8. So then the whole narrative was these black homophobes,
They
the reason
blamed it
why it
all
didn't
on black
pass,
people.
the black
That's
folks
right.
just don't like the gays. And I was like, first of
Yep.
all, I'm with a whole bunch of black gay people. So, and they voted no, and they
Exactly.
organized their communities to vote no so that they could have some marriage equity. But that was the first time where I was like, so wait a minute, in this big old state where
Right.
the vast majority of registered voters are white folk, and the
Yeah.
vast majority of people who turned out to vote were white folks,
Right.
you're going to blame the failure of Prop 8, or I guess the success, since it's a vote yes, of Prop 8 on black people? And I was like, so this is
Right.
what I feel like we're doing this setup again, so that if Donald Trump gets in, it's like, see those black men, they were just, blinded by the gold sneakers and the fact that he's in rap songs. So, they just love him. Now, is there something about Donald Trump and his bombacity that seems to be attractive in the narrative of people? Sure. But my question always is, Clay, are you registered to vote? Because a lot of times they're asking people like, yeah, I love Trump. It's like, sexy red, are you registered? Now, she might be.
Mhm.
Have you voted? Because a lot of times when you dig into the questions, when you're asking these cats if they like Trump and wherever they find these folks, I love him. It's like, did you vote last time? No. Are you registered to vote this time? No. Do you have a voting plan? No. Does anyone in your community have a voting plan? No. So it's like, okay, so this is an interesting thought experiment, but like, I'm actually not concerned about you right now. I want to talk to registered voters who actually plan on voting. Are you sort of susceptible to the, banana in the tailpipe with this man who's talking about, these immigrants speak a crazy language from outer space, Spanish, right? And they're Hannibal
The
Lecters. You know,
mugshots and indictments.
I mean, this is just, like literally 91 counts. So, and black folks will like me because I got a mugshot and they wear my, my t-shirts. I mean, it's so insulting and it says what Donald Trump has always thought about black people, right? He keeps people in categories, right? Jewish people hold his money, Mexicans are rapists, black people are criminals and thugs. Like he's been consistent in 40 years for those of us who are New Yorkers. We've known him way before Central Park 5. Now the
Absolutely.
exonerated 5. But
Yeah.
which he still doubles down on. It's like, no, 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 those
Still
animals
says
still
they're
did. It's
guilty.
like, still, still,
They
just
were
as Salam
acquitted
is a
by a New York
councilman.
Supreme Court. And
Just as
and and,
Salam is
and
a
remember
city
Bloomberg
councilman.
didn't want to pay them. And
Mhm.
it was De Blasio that insisted they got paid. I'm sorry. That drives me up the wall. Go ahead.
So, and some people are like, well, these college loans, like that doesn't affect me. I'm like, well, Obamacare does. A
Sure
woman's
enough.
right to choose does, right? Like the fact that contraception is freely available does. Environmental racism that's real in our communities, that affects us. Job prospects, that affects us. This man will sell this, Donald Trump will sell this country for parts. The first time was a practice run. The second time, he's telling us what he wants to do. And his white Christian nationalist followers are like, we want a dictator. We're tired of these women
Right.
saying things all mouthy, right? We're tired of these people of color. You saw the DEI grand opening
Yeah.
2020, grand closing 2024. The party is it's the party of Donald Trump and the fear that they have. And so, like, their primary voters are these ravenous, anti immigrant, anti black, anti woman, like they're still, and they're just they don't care where this country goes. They just think Donald Trump is going to drive us closer to, you know, the good old days where white supremacy reigns supreme. Democrats unfortunately pick up the language of Republicans. So like now Democrats are like the Democrat Party. I'm like, it's not the Democrat Party. When have we ever said that? Right? They use language like pro-life. I'm like, we're not talking about pro-life. These people support the death penalty. We're talking about choice and anti-choice. Let's use proper language to explain to people what they want. They are saying that a grown woman does not have a right to choose autonomy over her own body. Why are we using their language? They literally just sentenced people to death yesterday. So, like,
Mm.
I feel like the Democrats have never been good on offense, but they're not that great on defense either. But the reason why they haven't completely gone into, oblivion is because they actually are trying to work on policies. But what happens is they work on these policies, build a social safety net. Republican comes, rips out the social safety net, and then they rebuild it over time. But then blame the Democrats for like wasting money. But I'm like, but your friends just got all the tax breaks. Like, we got the
Yeah.
money. Y'all know. We keep
Yes.
looking in the
Oh, we
couch
got it.
cushions. We got the money.
Yeah.
But
Look
we
at the
just don't,
defense budget. We can do it.
sir, sir. We keep finding billions of dollars each week. Like, we got the money.
Right.
So
Right.
the messaging is so frustrating because Democrats follow Republicans with messaging. They always come to, a gunfight with like some emails and like a good faith effort, which I get. You're trying to uphold, you know, the standards of the Constitution, but we are, as you said, in November 2024, we're not going into a normal election. Donald Trump is already like, listen, I got to get back up in that White House because if not,
Yeah.
it could be jail time and I'm not going.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I got enough people in this country who will make sure I don't go. They'll defend me.